I'm Dyana Bagby. I'm the deputy editor of the Georgia Voice. We're a bi-weekly, sorry, I get my days mixed up all the time, newspaper that serves the LGBTQ community, based in Atlanta, but we try and cover most of Georgia as well, where things are happening, as well as national news. And the Georgia Voice opened 2 years ago, and I brought a couple of our last issue copies if you wanted to pick one up on the way out, in case you haven't seen one yet. And we're also online at thegavoice.com. I've been in the newspaper business since I was like 23, which is
6 years.
6 years. Exactly. Exactly. When I worked at a couple of small town daily newspapers before I was called to action or felt a need to do more with my with the job that I like to do in 2004, when the constitutional amendment became a big issue in Georgia to ban same-sex marriage. So I got a job with the former Southern Voice, and I've stayed in the gay media since. Thanks.
My name is Betty Couvertier, and I host the radio show on WRFG called Alternative Perspectives. That's 89.3 FM to the left of your dial. And, and I've been on the air since October of 2006. How I fell into that, it was that I went to volunteer at WRFG at the desk answering phones. They gave the class for broadcasting. I took it and took the test and passed it, and FCC certified, et cetera, et cetera. It was never my intention. I had never had any kind of, desires or anything like this to be on the radio or called media or journalist or anything like that. But again, 2004 was a marker for a lot of us out there, and I was very much involved in the SR 595, and things needed to be explained, things needed to be talked about. I was very fortunate in volunteering at WRSG. The folks there that had a show allowed me time on their show to get stuff out there and do broadcasts on the events and what was currently happening back then. And then finally, after I put in my proposal for my show, and then finally in 2006, I got it. And been broadcasting. I do interviews. I talk to anybody that wants to come to the radio or call in or talk about what they're doing, and if there's any events and stuff. Just the week before last, I had Stefan Collins, who is the Love Coalition director, and we talked about the event that Connell had just talked about that happened last night. Stefan and I go back a long, long way when he first formed Love Coalition. So I know him well, and he's doing great work. And I'm not a native of Georgia. I'm a New Yorker. I'm Hispanic, and I'm 64 years old. And I guess that's about it.
Hey everybody. My name is Ryan. I'm the Watkins. I'm the web manager for Georgia Voice.
And everything else.
And everything else. Like many of you, I am a straight ally. My mom came out to me when I was 15. So gay rights have been, for most of my adult life, my issue. I originally went to school and got a degree in English, and worked for some magazines, and the print publishing industry is is rapidly changing. There are fewer magazines now than there were even when I started writing, and so I jumped from publication to publication until they shut down. And I finally saw an ad on the internet for content uploading for a gay family of businesses, and I honestly thought it was pornography. But I applied anyway, because I'm open-minded. And come to find out, it was a news organization that put out newspapers and nightlife magazines and the Southern Voice, I worked for the parent company that Dyana worked for. Southern Voice or the company that we worked for went bankrupt in, I think, 2009. And Dyana and I were part of the Georgia Voice team that got together and started a startup newspaper. Some of my responsibilities include writing content, editing video, managing Facebook and Twitter and all those one-word social media services. I really enjoy my job, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to come here and hopefully answer some of your questions this afternoon.
Okay, I wanted to ask the panel if they could just briefly talk about what you think the pulse is right now in Atlanta for the gay community and maybe outside the rest of Georgia. If you've noticed it's changed over the past few years. So why don't we start with you, Diane?
Do you want the microphone? Turn it off.
The pulse for equality?
The direction, how you feeling? Is it getting better? Is it?
I do think it's better. I mean, if you look at our legislature, we have 4 openly gay candidates or politicians right now, which is remarkable. I think we still deal with a lot of anti-gay bigotry. I think Betty was able to.
Can you hold the microphone closer?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Turn it off.
Oh, is it off?
Yeah.
How do you turn it off?
It goes all the way to the top.
You guys couldn't hear me anyway? I think the pulse has changed, obviously, a little bit. I sometimes wonder if we've become apathetic, though, within Atlanta specifically. Because we do live in the bubble in the city of Atlanta, and we don't realize a lot of what's going on outside the city, that the hardships that are being dealt with there, and we try to bring as many of those issues as we can to light with our reporting at the Georgia Voice. But there still is plenty of anti-gay bigotry within the city of Atlanta, as Governor Nathan Deal did with his silly, I'll let Betty talk about that story herself. But since I've worked in gay media, it's ebbed and flowed. I think you will see still a lot of support for major AIDS organizations, major LGBT organizations, but then the smaller grassroots organizations will not get the packed house that perhaps, they deserve, because that's where, a lot of the groundwork is being done. But I don't know what else to add to about the pulse. Maybe Betty can do more. I'll pass it on.
Okay, how much time do I have? Well, like I say, on Thursday, I don't know how many of you all know that there is an international event that happens around the world on May 17th every year. And for the last 3 years, we just completed the 3rd year, we have celebrated that in Georgia. We've observed that date, May 17th. And we did that at the Village Church in Hapeville for the first time. We took it to the South Side. And we had decent, like Diana says, the house was not packed where it should be, because it's something, that we should all be aware of. Homophobia is dangerous, it's lethal, and it kills. And I think like a lot of people just don't connect all of that sometimes, because maybe they themselves are not dealing with it directly. And it's just a story that they've heard or something like that. But in that process, I have asked for proclamations from the City of Atlanta, from the City Council, from the House of Reps, from the commissioners, the Fulton County commissioners, and I've gotten proclamations from them proclaiming that date to be Atlanta International Day Against Homophobia. Last year, I asked the governor, the state of Georgia, to give me a proclamation. I filed 43 days instead of 45 days, so I was denied, but I was given a letter of welcome. And I said, okay, well, my fault, I didn't file in time. This year I did the same, and I filed in plenty of time. I first got a letter of welcome again, and I called the office and I said, yo, what happened? Okay. I filed in time. I have the proof that I can show you from when it was mailed out and when you all received it, et cetera, et cetera. So what happened to the proclamation, and why am I just getting a letter of welcome again and no explanation? At least last year, you gave me an explanation of why it was just a letter of welcome. So the guy that I was is Alan Fox. He's the editor for the governor. And if anybody wants to, I have his number somewhere, but I can give it to you if you want to call him and ask the same question that I have asked. And I have asked also the governor's press secretary, Stephanie Mayfield, okay? And I have asked them why the name of the event was changed, because indeed I got a proclamation, but the proclamation was renamed to Mistreatment Awareness Day. Right, I mean, that's what I did also. I chuckled, and everybody else who has looked at it and read it has chuckled. But it is it's documented homophobia, okay, and it's going to be worked on. I mean, the governor's office is going to hear from me for the next 2 years, because in 2014 we elect another governor. He's got to go. It's as simple as that. He's got to go. And Dyana, we sent her a picture of it on Friday. I was up, and while I'm at it, okay, well, let me not jump, okay, I'm going to go 1 minute. She has an article in the Georgia Voice about that proclamation. So go up there, that's thegeorgiavoice.com, read it, and see what it looks like. She has the picture up there. On Friday, and when we talk about the pulse and if things are changing, indeed they are. On Friday, we did an extension of the International Day Against Homophobia in Toccoa, Georgia, at a church called the New Day Worship Center. Pastor Coley is here. I'd like to introduce Pastor Coley and his partner, Chris. They came down from Toccoa today to be here at the PFLAG meeting, because they want to learn more also. They've been in existence for 3 years, and he has a wonderful congregation. They're ready to become activists, so it's a resource. And Friday evening, we had a panel. The panel consisted, some of you may know the names, the panel consisted of Larry Pellegrini, who is a lobbyist at the Gold Dome. He is a gay man. He lobbies for legislation, to protect us, et cetera, et cetera. And the Reverend Antonio Jones of Unity Fellowship Church. We had Paul Chapeau of the Get Equal. He is the coordinator in Georgia for Get Equal. If anybody doesn't know who Get Equal is, Get Equal are those folks who chain themselves to the White House fence for don't ask, don't tell. Okay, and we do have a chapter here in Georgia. And Louis Elrod, who is the president of the Young Democrats. Okay, and myself were on the panel, and we answered questions. And I can tell you now, the conversations were what I thought was, very good, because we talked about same-sex marriage. We talked about the equality of what it means. There was applause from the audience. We had people from 5 different counties: Hall, Raven, Pitkins, Stevens, and Havisham. Okay, and that is like a first time anything up in the furthest northeast mountain area of Georgia. And nobody was there outside, demonstrating, or nobody was threatening to bash us or anything else, so, and it was in the paper. This event was called the Northeast Georgia Progressive Forum, and it was in the local papers up there, in the northeastern Georgian newspaper. It's the local paper. I've been living up in Havisham now for a year, and I gotten acquainted with a lot of folks up there. A lot of them, some of them are Republican, okay, we're in a red area, and but they have embraced me. They have accepted me. I find them to be great people, even if they are, I'm a Democrat, so even if they are Republican, they're still great people. You know, so, but, and they're very supportive, okay? So things are changing, okay? And what we need to do is get out there, have the conversations, you know, get out of the boxes, you know, as Dyana alluded to, that we're in a, you know, Atlanta is in a bubble, and they do support the larger ongoing, you know, organizations like the HRCs and all this, and you have the big gala dances, and they get the funds that they need. And but there's hundreds of the little folks out there doing work in the grassroots, and those are the ones you need to listen to, because they're there at the pulse of the people, okay? Because they know what's happening, okay? They can feel it out. They know what's happening, and you can get things done because it'll go. It has to go from the bottom up. It can't come from the top down, okay? Because we are the people. We're the ones that experience this stuff. So we have to be unafraid. That's number one. And we have to be able to talk about the issues. And this is what I told the folks up there. And, you know, it's just, that's, the pulse is changing. But with places like the New Day Worship Center, we are going to be doing a whole lot of stuff up there in Toccoa, including a PFLAG chapter, hopefully, where we'll meet at the church. And we have several folks up there who are ready to lead in that venture. So yes, things are changing, and we definitely need the help that PFLAG can provide, along with the safe school organizations that are out there, because there are issues, and their issues are happening right now. So we need to get in there. We need to help these kids that don't have any place to go to. Okay, that they feel like, you know, they don't belong, and we need to change that. So the pulse is changing.
Thank you. I'm not quite as old as Dyana.
Just gonna get you.
I know. There's going to be a tack in my chair Monday morning. Even in my adult life, I'm 28, so 8 years ago in the presidential election, the constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriages, that was a wedge issue in 2008, and that can't be a wedge issue anymore. The majority of America, very slim majority, but a majority nonetheless, support the right for gays and lesbians to get married. And even more if you don't call it marriage. And in just the last 4 years, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the Matthew Shepard, James Byrne Hate Crimes Protections Act, hospital visitations, the Justice Department refusing to defend the Defense of Marriage Act in court because it violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. There are a lot of things that have happened in just the last few years. And Glee, oh my goodness. But there's definitely more work to be done. You can have tolerance and not have acceptance, and you know, we want to be at a place where everyone is accepted for who they are. And in the South in particular, Diana's absolutely right. I don't leave Atlanta too much, you know, unless I'm flying somewhere else, or I don't go to Habersham. I don't go to Toccoa or Rutherfordton, North Carolina, or tiny little towns that have gays and lesbians that have issues that they deal with. As a straight person, I don't face that same stigma, that same perception from other people. Now, I did deal with, you know, bullying and teasing and name calling when I was in high school, because my mom was out and proud, and that was my mom, you know. And it is slowly getting better. You know, Betty's absolutely right when she says that. I'm sorry, what was your name?
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Fran.
Fran, that's right. Yeah, anyway, bullying and suicides, that's a very real issue. You hear stories all the time, even after the It Gets Better campaign. That's been around for like 2 years now, 2.5 years, and the No Hate campaign. I mean, it's there's so much attention on the issue because it is a valid civil rights issue, and people my age and younger really view it as a new civil rights movement, and that's not to take away from past civil rights or women's suffrage movements, but we didn't get to experience that. This one is ours. We can change things. We can make the world a better place, and I think as more of us grow up and get a little bit older and take leadership positions in government and in business, that it will be normal. And one day we're going to look back, as we kind of do now, with pictures from the 60s. And we see in Alabama that famous photo of that young white girl yelling at that young African-American girl. And just think how ridiculous that is. That is ridiculous. Why? And I think we're going to get there. It might be a few years from now. It might be a decade or so from now before there's what everyone would consider equality, or what we would consider equality, and probably you guys as well. I have to tip my hat to Obama, though, because if John McCain had been elected president, we would still have John Axelson. We would still have a Defensive Marriage Act that's being defended in federal courts. We wouldn't have a Hate Crimes Protection Act, or hospital visitation, or any of those things. And it's unfortunate, too, because I'm friends with Republicans, and they have co-opted this anti-gay party platform. But the majority of Republicans I know have a live and let live kind of attitude about things, where they would say, I don't care, you go do your thing, don't bother me over here. But people in Georgia, or people in South Carolina, or people in the Bible Belt really view that issue differently. And so for Georgia, or for any of the southern states, I think it will have to be federally done, either a Supreme Court decision or a constitutional equality amendment, if there could be such a thing. Somebody's going to have to tell us, or tell Georgians and South Carolinians and Tennesseans that they have to recognize equality, and it'll happen. And I think it will happen. I think it will happen, hopefully soon. Just the difference between 2004, when I started voting, and this year, just how the issues have flipped, how the polling has flipped, how the perception of gays and lesbians in entertainment media has really flipped. Yes, so the pulse is changing, and it's changing. Some people will say it's not changing fast enough. I can't tell you whether or not it is or not, but I know it is changing for the better. Yes.
My next question would be, just briefly, have you ever experienced when you've gone out to report a story and you tell them that you're from the Georgia Voice, or you're reporting, or you're on the radio, have you felt discrimination yourself when you've been out working?
I have, yes, and not necessarily a discrimination of, oh, he works for a gay newspaper, but he works for a newspaper. The folks in the TV business don't really take us seriously. Sometimes politicians don't take us very seriously, especially because we're an alternative newspaper. Our print run is a fraction of even what a Creative Loafing is. But we have a niche market, a niche publication, and but that doesn't change how we treat our work. We are legitimate professional journalists who just happen to work for a gay newspaper. And sometimes it takes some folks a little while to realize just how serious you are and how committed to the story you are. But I would say mostly newspaper and not so much sexuality.
No. I don't know if it's prejudice in any way as far as you say the word radio, and you say the word radio, and sort of kind of the ears perk up a little bit because they say, radio, I can hear myself. You know? Yeah. Then I told them the name of the radio show, and then we'll talk a little bit more, and then they'll ask me, is it a talk show, and what do you talk about? I said about LGBTQ issues and our allies, because we include all the issues, because all the issues involve us as well as the rest of society. So I don't think it's prejudice, but I think they sort of kind of, hold back maybe for a minute. But in most cases, I've never had anybody turn me down to be on the radio, okay, or to call in, or if asked about any particular, issue. So I just can't, I've never really experienced that.
Actually, no. I've talked to leaders in the anti-equality movement for stories, and they'll talk to me. I don't like what they're saying at all, and some of what they say will hurt me, but it's not, they're just talking to me as a reporter. I haven't had anyone, I'm not talking to you because you're a gay reporter, never had to deal with that. But I know that I've talked to people, like maybe, I don't know, Tony Perkins, people from the Alliance Defense Fund, and they're just not fun people to talk to, but they will answer your questions, and yes.
Do you ever, do you stay as a reporter? Is it hard to stay as a reporter or to want to answer back some of the idiotic things?
I don't get into a fight with them. I might, sometimes I want to go, oh, you were just ridiculous. But I don't, because that's not my job. If I'm reporting, if I decide to write, I haven't written many blogs on this or anything, or opinion pieces on it, but when I'm writing straight news story, no, I stay in the reporter mode. And I remember doing that a lot, especially at Southern Voice, having to call, when that, amendment constitute, was going on. It's the aftermath of that. And, but, sometimes we don't get callbacks, maybe from the mayor's office as soon as we'd like, or stuff like that, because we're not the AJC, and, or, not even Creative Logan Prize. But I think Creative Logan also doesn't get many callbacks, as always, as they would like, because, as Ryan said, we're a little bit of alternative, and we'll do have our own. We believe in marriage equality and equality for gay people, so that is a form of advocacy journalism, I would say.
Okay, we're going to open up to questions now. Yes, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an article coming out on the impact of the NAACP position?
We need to find out, because that happened over the weekend, and we already have our budget planned for this issue, which the deadline is Tuesday. But we posted it on Facebook and tweeted it, which is a major. And have we forgotten to mention Obama? Hello, Obama came out. That was a historical moment, and I remember, because I will always remember where I watched it. I was watching it with Ryan in his apartment, and he wrote the story about it right, as soon as it was happening.
We don't have a TV in the office.
No, yeah. Something's happening at 3 o'clock. We know it's serious. We're going to Ryan's apartment to watch it. And so for the pulse for the country, that's got to fall down to Georgia as well, especially. And But the NAACP is serious, and I think we need to have some kind of coverage.
Do you think that's a consequence of of Obama?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing to me to see some of the things that are just starting to trickle.
Yeah. I don't think that they would have come out if he had not done so.
Yeah,
And
so
I think a lot of politicians now are able to step
Yeah.
forward and say there's a big push to have marriage equality as part of the Democratic Party's platform. And there's been some resistance from Southern Democrats and from some blue dog Democrats about they don't want to have that as an issue that they have to deal with in their own elections back home. But after Obama has come out and popularized the idea, it's huge. And I would think, historically speaking, the NAACP's announcement or endorsement of marriage equality is equally as huge. The nation's largest civil rights organization now believes that marriage equality is a civil rights issue, and they didn't have to do that, but they did, and they have leaders like Julian Bond,
Who've always
yeah.
been supportive of our issues as
Yeah.
well.
and your Coretta Scott Kings, and I mean there are leaders in the African American civil rights community that have come out, but just to have the umbrella organization. I think that will do a lot of good and go a long way in changing the minds of a lot of people who couldn't have cared less about the issue 3 weeks ago.
There is a first at the Kohler, Georgia event on Friday. Our moderator was from the Shady Grove Baptist Church, straight ally, okay? And he has come around, from what I can hear and when I've been talking to people that go to his church, he wasn't like that always, okay? The other thing is, I know that a lot of you probably know, Harry Knox, who used to be with HRC, the faith-based director there for them, and he also was on that 25-member committee for Obama on the faith-based directive, but he's starting a whole new directive that's coming down from the White House, and he's moving. He lives in Raven County now. He's my neighbor, actually, and up in Raven County. I'm in Havisham, which, it's right next door to each other. But he is going back to Washington, D.C. in July. And it is a movement or an initiative to get all the black clergy together in support of same-sex marriage.
Wow.
Right, and that's just beginning. And it has a name. I got the email. I think I sent you a copy of the email I got from Harry. I don't know. But I'll send it to you again because Harry sent it out, to all the folks that he's been associated with. And I used to work with him on HRC as Dana did. We were co-chairs there for diversity when Harry was part of that initiative and all that. So there is a huge movement now to bring together the black church that had always been sort of kind of a wedge issue to keep us apart. Well, I think that's going to come to an end soon.
Okay, yes, in the back.
I just wanted to say that I have a question, but wanted to back up. The NAACP has had a LGBT committee since 2009. So I think that, and then their president, Ben Jealous, recently spoke at the LGBT task force and gave a powerful speech about the need for equality. So I think the NAACP has been moving in that direction all along. And President Obama's, his statement may have had something to do with it, but I think they were going that route anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm from Athens, well, not from Athens, but I live in Athens. And Athens we are really doing some things in the LGBT community right now. Ryan, you wrote a story about our participation in the Worldwide LGBT Civil Rights March.
And the picnic.
Yeah, we're getting ready to have our second annual Athens Pride Weekend in September, and we are bringing PFLAG back to Athens. So we are a community. Our first meeting is going to be June 20th in Athens. So if you have parents, friends, and families up in that area, please get the word out. We have a Facebook page. And there's some other folks from Athens that came down today for the training. So anyways, we're a community that's really trying to be visible, be crowd be out in Athens, and how can we get more coverage from the Georgia Voice? I mean, we are one of those small little towns that doesn't get much press about our stuff, but we were very happy to get press about the civil rights march we were part of. How can we even get Georgia Voice papers in Athens? How can we get more coverage? Need help with
send us information. Since we're in Atlanta and cover Atlanta, the majority of our content, you know, we don't often get a chance to go out to suburbs. If you have an event and you have a press release, send it to us. Send us
That's
Facebook
an
information.
insult to Athens.
What's that?
They don't want to be a suburb of Atlanta.
I was born in Athens at St. Mary's Hospital, and so I am a dog. And you're right, Athens is kind of like Atlanta in the sense that it's a progressive hub surrounded by a sea of not progressiveness. Even like your Oconee counties, how red that is, even though everyone there works in the university system. It's so weird. Yes, we have definitely taken notice. And please just send us information. Befriend me on Facebook and invite me to events. And Dyana as well. And if you guys have press releases, or if you have videos or photos that you want to share with us, or anything, just let us know what's going on, and we'll be more than happy to throw you a line.
How much time do we have?
About 5 minutes.
Okay, bye.
Oh, no.
Can I quickly just say one comment about Athens? Okay, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but in 2004, you were the only county up there in Athens, and the only city that won the SR 595 with about the percentage of just the opposite of what the state, because you got out there and you did the work that needed to be done, knocking on doors, and you did, you just did it, and you won up there. So that's history as far as I'm concerned for Athens.
I just want to say, for those of you who are new with us today, that these folks, these journalists, these media people, and we in PFLAG are the teachers that have brought all of this about. We are out there educating. So I just thank you so much, and I thank all of you who come to PFLAG, because the more education. This is how our president came out for us, in support of us. This is how our vice president came out in support of us. This is how the NAACP came out in support of us. All of our community efforts working together to educate ourselves and each other. So I thank you so much for being here and for all that you do and continue to do for us. Thank you.
Okay, last question.
Okay, just very quickly, actually, I think that was a better way to end it, but one of the concerns I have as we begin the Athens chapter is that we don't think of ourselves just in terms of the university or Athens itself, because people who live in red counties have children who need help. They themselves need help, and I think part of our job is to reach out to people who are reluctant because of needs or whatever, but they need somebody to talk to. And so that's a kind of more difficult challenge than being in Athens itself when so much is already going on.
No, you're absolutely right. There are gay kids in Statham and Winder and Bethlehem, and to have that resource up there now is going to be invaluable to some people. And talk to me in a minute about seeing if we can get papers up to Athens.
May I say one thing last? I just want to say we couldn't do our job without people willing to share their stories. And for that, I'm always grateful. I mean, people will tell you stuff And when you share your story and other people read about that, that leads to more education and information. And I learn a lot, and I really, really enjoy hearing everyone's stories. And I'm glad that people are willing to share them. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, like Dyana said.
Ditto.
What's that?
I said ditto for what she said.
We're in advocacy journalism, and when we go to work, we're a tiny bit activist. And there's not many jobs. You can't go to Best Buy and say you're a tiny bit activist. I used to. I got fired for being a tiny bit activist. But we really enjoy what we do, and we thank you guys for having us here today and for reading the Georgia Voice and listening to it.